Welcome back to Lesson 5 of our Virtual Piano Lessons series. In this lesson, we're going to learn some new rhythms and note lengths that will allow us to play even more complex pieces of music. We're also going to start to break free from the strict 5-finger hand positions that we have mostly been using so far. By moving our fingers outside of these hand positions, we'll be able to hit a greater range of notes, which is a huge step to begin playing most pieces of music. Let's get started. First, let's review the note types and durations that we've learned so far. First, we have quarter notes, which are 1 beat long. Then, we have half notes, which are 2 beats long. Finally, we have whole notes, which are 4 beats long. There are many other types of notes, and we'll go over 2 of them now. First, we have the eighth note. Eighth notes take up 1/2 of a beat. This means that 2 eighth notes can fit into 1 quarter note. An eighth note looks like a quarter note, but it has a tail on it. When we have 2 or more eighth notes in a row, we connect them with a beam. When we encounter eighth notes in music, we count them like this. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, we say 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's look at this example of eighth notes. I'll demonstrate how we would count and play this. So you would count this example like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now try to play with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and play and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Here's a slightly more complicated example that uses eighth notes. We have both quarter notes and eighth notes here, so it will be important to count the rhythm carefully. Let's play and count it out loud. 1 and 2 and 3 and play and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 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 and. And one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and play and. Just like we have quarter, half, and whole rests, we also have eighth rests. Let's look at an example that uses eighth rests. So we'll be playing an eighth note on every downbeat, which are the main 4 beats, while we will be resting on the upbeats, which are where we count the ands. It sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and so on. So now let's play it together. 1 and 2 and 3 and play and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 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 and. And one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and play and. The other type of note that we'll introduce now is the dotted half note. Dotted half notes are 3 beats long. As you can see, a dotted half note is just a half note with a small dot to the right of it. When a dot is next to the note, it means that the note now has 1.5 times as many beats as it originally would have. A half note would normally have 2 beats, so 2 times 1.5 is 3 beats. You can also have dotted quarter notes and dotted whole notes, but for now we'll just focus on dotted half notes. Let's play an example that uses dotted half notes. Look it over and then we'll play it together. 1 and 2 and 3 and play, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and play, and now, what if we wanted to have a note that extends from one measure into the next? Right now, we can only have up to 4 beats in a measure, but what if we wanted to place a half note right here in the last beat of a measure? As of right now, we can't, because then we would have 5 beats in that measure. But there is a way to make a note continue beyond the end of a measure with a symbol called a tie. When a tie is placed between 2 consecutive notes at the same pitch, it converts those notes into a single equivalently long note. For example, this tie converts these 2 quarter notes into one single half note. And this tie converts these 2 half notes into one single whole note. So back to our original question. How would we place a half note at the last beat of a measure? We would place 2 quarter notes on either side of the bar line and then put a tie between them. Let's play this example, remembering to hold the tied C quarter notes for 2 beats. 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4, hold to 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And one more time. 1, 2, ready, and. In every example we've learned so far, we've been playing in 4/4 time, which we said before means there are 4 beats per measure. However, there are many other time signatures that we can have, including 3/4 time. In 3/4 time, we have 3 beats per measure, like this. Instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, in 3/4 time, we just count up to 3, like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In Module 2, I mentioned what the bottom number of a time signature indicates, but let's go over it in more detail now. The bottom number indicates which type of note is equivalent to 1 beat. So 4 means quarter note. So in 4/4 time, there are 4 beats per measure, and 1 beat is equivalent to 1 quarter note. In 3/4 time, there are 3 beats per measure, and 1 beat is equivalent to 1 quarter note. You can have a time signature of 3/8 time, which means there are 3 beats per measure, and 1 beat is equivalent to an 1/8 note, and it looks like this. You can also have a time signature of 2/2, where 1 beat is equivalent to a half note, and it looks like this. But for now, we're just going to focus on 3/4 time, so let's play some examples. Here's our first example. It's pretty similar to what we've already been playing, but now we're just in 3/4 time. Take a look at it, and then we'll count and play it together. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, play. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. Here's another example. This is an important example because you can see that we're no longer just playing in our simple 5-finger positions. In this example, we use a crossing over technique that we also use when playing scales. Remember that when we move from a 3 to a 1, we tuck our thumb under. And when we move from a 1 back to a 3, we cross our third finger over. Take a minute to practice the crossovers that occur in both hands in this piece, and then we'll play it together twice. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and 1, 2, 3, tuck under, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, crossover, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, crossover, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. Another way that we can move beyond 5-finger positions, besides crossing over, is by jumping to new locations on the keyboard. Take a look at this example. So we start with both our hands in G position, but in measure 5, the left hand jumps down to sort of a C position, except that we have F sharps. There are rests in the measure prior to the jump, so we can use that time to move our hand. Take a minute to practice this exercise on your own, and then we'll play it together. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, and quiet, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, bring your left hand down, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And one more time, bring your left hand back up. 1, 2, 3, 1, ready, and. The techniques for extending hand positions that we just went over will also be needed to play the last 2 exercises in this module's post-video exercises. In exercise 8, both hands make jumps, and there are stars that indicate where the jumps occur. Make sure to practice moving your hands during rests so that you are able to play in the new positions right on time. There are also 2 notes in this exercise that we briefly learned during the G scale, but haven't used much. They are F sharp and E in the left hand, and they are labeled in the exercise to give you an extra hint. Then in exercise 9, you'll be using the crossover technique to move up and down the keyboard in the left hand. If you need a refresher on how crossing over occurs, rewatch the segment of this video where I explain the rules of crossing over, or watch the recorded example of this exercise to visually see how the crossing over occurs. So we learned a lot of new rhythms and techniques in this video, and oftentimes new concepts in music need to be reviewed multiple times in order to fully get them down. So don't be afraid to rewatch this video or explore the additional resources to fully master this module. Keep practicing the post-video exercises until you're comfortable with them, complete the theory worksheet, and learn more about Bach in this module's history lesson before moving on to the next module. As always, check out the additional resources I linked below to get further information on the module's topics. See you next time!